Hi. So I'm going to talk about just one project, and my practice in general has a lot to do with looking at the everyday and examining that and then highlighting it. This project came about as a result of something landing literally on my front porch. A family member, decided to buy a living room rug from my wife and I, and they bought it over the internet. And some sort of mistake occurred, and the rug was delivered, and then the next day it was delivered again. So we wound up with two rugs. This is the rug, the first rug, which we began to use, and that's my dog Hazel and daughter Beatrice using it. Then we had this second rug, and we weren't quite sure what to do with it. It was delivered to us while we weren't there, so it was just put on the front porch, and we came home, and there it was. And so we thought, well, we can return this to the corporation who sold this, which is sort of a large American homewares company, or we could do something else with it. And we looked at the label and realized it was made in India, and so we decided that what we would do was create a project that would, in a small sort of way, redistribute the wealth or the value that was sort of embedded in that rug, and at the same time educate us as Western consumers of objects that come from other parts of the globe. And so we sold the rug and the idea to two art centers, one in Canada, the Art Gallery of Mississauga, and another in Colorado at Colorado College, Idea Space. So they bought the rug for the price of the rug that it was sold for in the US, which was $1,500, along with the funds that would allow us to research where the rug had been made in India, and then go to that place and deliver the $1,500 to a factory worker who had worked on the rug. So we spent the next year doing this research and making connections to various people in India, in particular a man named Ashish Mahajan, who works at a really interesting media arts organization in Delhi called Sarai. And he helped us to find the factory. So this is just flying to Delhi, and then this is arriving in Delhi. It was a long flight, and this is what we saw when we first arrived there. Then we took the taxi to our hotel where we were staying, and got sort of the experience of seeing Delhi and extreme air quality issues, etc. We stayed in a sort of fancy hotel that gave us that typical experience of seeing extreme poverty and then sort of avoiding it at the same time. And then we went with Ashish, and he took us to various locations to talk to different people about issues related to factory work, some that were really difficult and brutal to experience. And then we eventually made our way to Panipat, which is the city north of Delhi, a few hours north, where almost all of the rugs in India are manufactured at this point. There's hundreds of different factories there. And through contacts he had, he found what we feel like was probably the factory where our rug was made. And it was actually in a more sort of rural spot. So this is sort of getting closer to the factory and the things we saw. This is the factory, and going through the front gates of it. Amazingly, the factory owner was willing to let us not only tour the factory, but video our tour. So we got to go there. We talked to the manager and showed him a photograph of our rug, and he wasn't able to locate whether it was actually had been made there or not, but he showed us examples of ones that looked very similar. Our rug had been discontinued a few years earlier, so they didn't have those records anymore. And then we were able to go and actually see, at least the equivalent of where our rug was made, and see the process, which was very different than what I was expecting. And the rug that we had was a tufted rug, so it was made using this kind of a process. But there were all sorts of other things going on there too. Eventually, we met this man whose name is Sandeep during his lunch break. And he was a tufter, so he had worked on the same kind of rug that we had. He took us to where he lived, which was just across the street, in a sort of cement compound. And there we met some of his fellow workers. We showed him the photograph of the rug. He said that he felt like he might have made it, but he couldn't remember it, for sure. He's made a lot of rugs since that time. They had a buffalo in the back for milk. But he lived in a cubicle that was about the size of this stage with 2 other factory workers. This is Ashish sort of translating and explaining to us what was going on. Then we went back and spent some time with him in the rug factory. He told us about his life. He lived about a 24-hour train ride away, and had originally been a part of a farming family, but they weren't making enough money, so he went to the factory and now supports his wife and 3 kids and his larger extended family as well. So after spending some time with him, we decided that we would give him this equivalent amount of money to the cost of the rug, which was $1,500. It turned out, which we had exchanged into rupees. It turned out that he made about that amount every year, in a year. So in about a year, he made the equivalent of the cost of the rug being sold in the U.S. So this is us in his little room, his living space, and then eventually giving him the money and talking to him about that too. And we really explained our interest in doing this, and sort of the fact that we saw it not as us giving him something, but sort of redistributing something back to him that was really his to begin with. And I see this as not having really any impact on this large-scale global capitalism at all, but instead really as just a learning experience for us as Western consumers of an object, to be able to see the source of it, and to then enact this very small-scale wealth redistribution act, and to then have that as a memory as we continue our lives back in Portland, Oregon, buying products that are made on the other side of the world, and having a better idea of where they're